What's up, everybody? It's your friend Isaac. Welcome back to Big Bike BMX. And today we are talking about why Craig and I left our teams and joined SuperCross BMX. What do you think, Craig? Is that a good topic?
That's a pretty good topic, dude.
Okay.
That's going to be really interesting. Let's go.
I think it's been enough time. You guys, full backstory. We're going to do this as an audio podcast. So if you're listening on Spotify and Apple, there's a video version if you'd like to watch Craig and I talk on our YouTubers. If you don't know, you can go search Big Bike BMX on Spotify, Apple, find us there. So welcome back. We've recorded this. This is what, fifth time we've recorded?
I think, yeah, I would say number 5.
This is the 5th time. Okay.
Yeah.
So every time we record this, some drama happens in bike life, and then we're like, oh, we can't post that. So we decided, like, hey, man, it's been enough time. This seems like a good window of opportunity to talk about like why we left our old sponsors. And there was a lot of sponsorship changes at the beginning of the year that had nothing to do with us. And so we were just staying quiet over here, having a good time riding our SuperCross bikes. So basically, end of the year, I called Todd. I left SE. We're on good terms. I love Todd. I love the brand. I love SE. What literally happened was, we'll get into it in a second. I want to talk about Craig because one of the big things I'll get into mine, and then I'll talk about how we got on. All right. So
all good.
Basically what was going on is the entire year that I was on SE, I was having a great time. But I noticed that they were really promoting a lot of bike life, a lot of the younger, wheelie stunt kids. And I love that. That's fantastic. That's the future of the sport. That's where it's at. That's where those bikes are sold. 100% understand it. But as far as like the stuff that I would get out of a sponsorship, travel, I pay for my own travel because I travel with all my family. So that's not something I expect a sponsor to help me with. Hotel rooms, when you're a sponsored rider, you usually share a room with somebody else. I travel again with my family, so that wasn't a big benefit to me. So that wasn't something I was taking advantage of. So the only thing I was really getting out of the SE sponsorship was free gear and free bikes. So if they are promoting the bike life scene and younger kids that are in that bike life scene doing knee knockers and wheelie tricks, it would be dumb for me. I felt guilty just staying on, like, I'm just going to stay here for free bikes. That's not a good enough reason to be like, hey, I'm just going to stick around. So I called Todd and was like, hey, man, give my sponsorship to somebody else. We left on good terms, and I love to see that. I know the one-way Arista stuff was already in play, but I like to think that my spot went to a talented young girl that is out of Philadelphia that does amazing things with bike life, and she's going to represent SE phenomenally. So in the meantime, I was like, I'm not going to be sponsored at all. I'm just going to go ride bikes, have fun, just like I did when I started talking to my dirtbag friend, Craig, who's on this side of the screen for me. If it ends up not that way when the recording.
I'm that dirtbag friend.
There's my dirtbag friend. So I was like, I'm not going to be sponsored. But maybe a month or two before I ended up leaving SE, we had interviewed Bill at SuperCross, which is not a big BMX brand. You would not think like, hey, this is a brand Craig and I would go to. They had limited edition 26-inch frames available at the time, and they had like some race frames, but it wasn't something that was on my radar. I talked to Bill from SuperCross, and that guy is just super passionate. You can watch that interview, look for the card. You can click it right up here. I'll probably put it at the end as well. So watch this, and then you can watch our original interview with Bill. Dude loves BMX, and as much as Craig and I does. Like, he's been in the industry, original owner of the SuperCross brand since '88. So the last 33, going on 34 years, single owner of a BMX brand. And there's only a couple that have done that. Chris Moeller, S&M, SuperCross, Bill Ryan. And who am I missing? Standard. That's the other one, right? Because Standard is still around, and that is still run by
Standard. S&M, Chris Moeller. Did you name him?
Yes, you guys have a cold. I apologize. S&M, and then Moliterno with Standard. So those are the only three that I can really think of that have been around and not have changed hands. And Cool Stop. Shout out to Char, original owner of Cool Stop. What up? We love Cool Stop brake pads. But yeah, so it's an original brand. I love talking with him, and he ended up sending me a 26-inch SX250. And honestly, Craig, you know me, dude. I don't like 26s. 27.5 is my bike. I built it up though. I was like, I'm going to check it out. I had some extra parts laying around, so I built up this SX250. Bro, loved it. I think I called you that day. I'm like, bro, I rode
I
the longest
remember.
wheelie I've ever. Yeah,
I
I was like, dude,
remember, bro.
I just rode the longest wheelie I've ever rode in my life. And you're like, bullshit. And I'm like, no, dude, for real. And then for a long time, I was trying to learn one-handed wheelies. Within 2 weeks, I'm like, look at me, one-handed wheelie. I can go across the parking lot. So I really loved this bike. And so I called Bill. I'm like, hey, bro, what are your plans for big bikes? And he's like, hey, I got some plans. I was like, I would love to help you out. You know what I mean? I'm like over here, like,
Yep,
dude,
yep.
this would be dope. And he's like, bet, And so I was like, he's like, can you bring Craig? And I was like, I don't know. Craig's on Race Inc. Let me talk to him. So enter my dirtbag friend, Craig.
Hey, everybody. I'm the dirtbag friend, Craig. Yeah. And, it was exciting. It was definitely, I was stoked for you. And the way that all transpired for you, the transaction of being able to stay on good terms. And, for me, you're right. It was more or less like good. That's good news. Good to hear. I was stoked for you. I already had a commitment and definitely wanted to honor that commitment with Race Inc. And actually, you guys, when I took that sponsorship, it was like basically there's no written contract that, it's not a sponsorship like back in the 80s where people are paying in their mortgages. It's a whole different scene now.
Yeah. Were you paid? I wasn't paid. I'm gonna be honest. I wasn't paid at SE.
No,
I was,
neither I. So
okay.
the whole thing is like, basically I'll let you in on this. Like after a year of this relationship, the sponsorship, we would both sit down on both sides and review, what was going on, if we wanted to continue, if Race Inc. at a year's time said, hey, look, we've had fun. This has been great. We're going to do other things and thank you for your time. That would have been it. And the same went for me as well. Right. So I had that opportunity, and that's what we did. We sat down and, we just, spoke about things, and I let them know, because at that time you would express like, hey, we'd love to have you over here. And I was like, yeah, really can't do that until I meet my commitment. And so that time came, and I had the conversation with Race Inc. and love everyone there. I mean, there was no animosity. There was no ill will. We basically just, created and made a family relationship between me and the brands that fall under ABMXC, which is, you don't only have Race Inc., Isaac, you have Box Components, you have BMX Action Magazine, you have Cook Brothers, and, they were taking care of me with those things as well. So it was a great time, and I had a lot of fun. I got to, do a lot of things under the Race Inc. flagship and banner. And it was a childhood dream come true, dude. Like, I'm a sponsored rider. Whatever capacity that was, it wasn't, like you said, there wasn't a salary associated with it. But for me, it was just so awesome to live out a childhood dream,
dude.
To be
just to wear a jersey,
right?
just to wear a jersey that says Factory Riders is something that, like, I definitely like. It's something that it had weight in the 80s when I like, for me, when I put on like my MCS jersey, it was like, this is real. Like I somebody validated me is what it felt like. That was cool.
100%.
And so
yeah.
What as an adult, what it meant was like, there's no trophies anymore. There's none of that to chase. And it was just like like, hey man, we appreciate what you're doing. You know what I mean? And it's, I wasn't sponsored because I'm a great rider. There are people that will wheelie longer than I am, smoother than I am, do tricks better than I can. It what has nothing to do with that. It's just, it was a cool thing to be like, man, you're appreciated, and we think that we can do something with you with this brand. And when I talked to Bill Ryan about it at SuperCross, I'm like, it's a BMX company. And honestly, so for the purposes of this conversation, I'm not trying to start a controversy. This is just for this conversation so we can define some terms. I'm not trying to change culture at all, you guys. This is just because Craig and I we've fallen on our heads a lot. We've rode a lot of bikes. We've crashed a lot.
For real.
So for this conversation, I've seen Liam do this, where he's like, okay, this is bike life. This is big BMX. Okay. So when I say during this conversation, bike life, I'm referring to like the younger wheelie, knee knocking, doing like all the stunts on the seats, standing there, doing all the back wheel tricks, going down a hill, going down a parking garage. I'm going to call that bike life. What I'm going to call big BMX is people like us, right? Dads, if you're over 30, you're just having a good time. It's not a wheelie thing. It is you like to ride big BMX bikes because you rode them as a kid. To me, in this conversation, we're going to call that big BMX. Okay.
Gotcha.
Understood. Got it.
Gotcha.
So what I noticed after going to a lot of ride outs is we all ride together in big ride outs, but there are definitely two communities there's bike life and there's big BMX. I love to watch bike life because I see these kids. To me, bike life is flatland, bro. It is the same rules apply, right? As a kid doing flatland, do as many tricks in a row as you can that look good, that flow, and you don't touch the ground and you ride away. Bike life, you do as many tricks as you can in a row that flow, you keep the wheel up. It's flatland in a wheelie. It's a little bit harder. Well, a lot harder, I think. But it's flatland. So I love to watch it. But at the same time, I understand that like I'm 50 years old and watching and appreciating bike life would be weird if I put myself in 16-year-old and Craig and 16-year-old Craig or 15-year-old Craig and Isaac. And there's there's dudes that look like us that start hanging out in our spot. I'd be like, what's up, 21 Jump Street? Are you here to try and, get me to sell you drugs? Like, are you know what I mean? Like, it would be weird. And I get it, dude. I get it. The problem is a lot of us old heads or mature people, right? We're more like, we're just here for the good vibes, man. I feel like I'm 13, so I get it if I look at it. But if I don't, I just think you BMX, I BMX, we all BMX. I don't care how old you are. I don't care your gender. I don't care anything. I literally don't care anything about it. If you ride a bike, I want to ride bikes with you. That's my vibe. So that's it. So we started riding SuperCross because it was like BMX. That's a cool community. I can get behind that. I grew up BMXing. You grew up loving BMX. You grew up in the NorCal, like another haven of BMX, a lot of roots there. So moving to SuperCross just made sense. Now, trying to talk to Craig about like, I just built I just built a different SuperCross frame than the one that you're riding. I fell in love with the SX250. It's a 26-inch. It has the 6 bars in the back. Super solid chromoly. Amazing feel, amazing touch. It's the first chromoly bike I've ridden since coming back to BMX. So that flex and that, like, I don't know, man, it's kind of like it's just has a feel that you're gonna love if you are an 80s kid, man.
It does. And I didn't think about that as much when I got on my SuperCross. And I got the same one that you initially got, the SX250 26-inch. And let me just tell you, going predominantly, I ride in the last four years or so, only 29ers, going down to a 26. I wasn't skeptical of the bike. I was skeptical about my ability to transition. And, but a chromoly bike and the geometry and the classic frame design that SuperCross had when it initially, was manufacturing its bikes with that 6-bar design, there was just something about it. And it feels like you're home again. You just haven't been home in a while.
Right. You don't think about it. Because odds are you're riding an aluminum bike, right? So riding something's chromoly, if you are an 80s kid, it's very, very, it's familiar. It's very familiar.
100%.
And the steeper head tube, very, very familiar. It just feels good. It feels very like, I feel like I could do a lot of crazy. I could get myself in some really good medical bills with this SX250 is what I feel like when I ride it.
It makes you do things that you got to check your insurance premium
there you
ahead
go.
of time.
Yep. So, dude, so I got the new one, the rate. So Bill's like, when I joined, he then sent me the race bike, the NVRS7, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now this thing has the crazy form tubes and internal cable routing and like it's got
Extremely
a
modern.
yeah, dude, it is a 7-time bike of the year in the racing world. So I was like, dude, I'll be honest, like between you and me and the wall, I was like, I'm never gonna ride this, dude. It's a race bike. It's not gonna be comfortable at all. So I start looking at it and I'm like, okay, well, I had to start putting it up to my frame. I'm like,
I was gonna
kind of
say, didn't you put them up like
hits. Yeah, I did.
side by side?
And I was like, oh, that hit's kind of the same. Okay. So then I go online and I'm like, let me just look and see. So I literally have both, like I do a screenshot and a screenshot of the specs and I put them side by side. And I'm like, left, right, left, same, same,
Same,
same, same. And I was like, I still didn't believe it, dude. So I call Bill. I'm like, hey, bro, is the Envy RS 726 the same geometry as the 6-bar? He's like, it's the exact same. I was like, bro, okay, cool. Psh, hang up. Now I'm all in, dude. I'm like, let's go. It's got a carbon fiber fork, an oversized stem because it's got carbon fiber handlebars. So the front end weighs about as much as an Apple mouse is what it feels like. It weighs nothing. And so then I got some Speedline. So you guys, when you understand Supercross, there is Supercross, then there is the parts side of the company, which is Speedline. Premium frames, premium BMX parts. So if you are on a budget, you can find some stuff over here in the Speedline realm that could fit your budget, possibly. But just understand this is premium engineered race equipment, right? It's not even parts, it's equipment. So I'm like, I've never had a 20 millimeter front axle through axle. What is this, dude? I've never had that in my life. So I get some Speedline Killer Buzz hubs, and these are on a worm system, a worm drive, not a ratchet pawl like a profile or a bullseye hub. It's completely different. It's loud, but it just functions differently. And engagement is like, it still has that weird, like not weird, but it's a very familiar click. It's just different, dude. It's very, very different, but familiar. It's loud. So it works. And I'm like, dude, this is crazy. I wrote it last weekend for a ride out, and dude, it had a blast with it. I did put the RS, the Carrera RS with the red rails on the bottom.
The saddle.
Dude,
you made a killer video too. I want to tell people, if you guys want to, I mean, I'm sure you're going to talk about this, but
yeah,
you guys want to see a dope video about this bike? Go check out Big Bike BMX with Isaac's drone footage and him riding around, dude. You're really, I don't know, man, your riding and your video skills. I love it. I wish I had them.
Yeah, it's a drone.
Continue on, sir.
Yeah. But dude, the technology is crazy, dude. Like the bars on the RS7, like the aluminum, like it's Easton bat material, right? It's that type of aluminum. So it's stiff. Yeah. It's got like these twisty things, dude. Like I wish I could tell you, like Bill was talking about like the way it's formed and like the way that the two, it's hard to explain, dude. Like,
dude, I know. And I'm trying to follow you. I don't have those things yet. I would love to, but what do you think about, what if we just got Bill on here, dude, to go over some of this? Like, we're trying to explain it, Ben. What do you think?
It's Friday at
too late?
8:09. Man, call him, dude. You call. I'm not calling him.
Me?
Call him. Yeah, you call him. I'm not.
We're gonna call the founder and owner of SuperCross to explain his parts at 8:09
on a Friday.
Or it's only 7:09 my time. I mean, dude, he's still up. Should I?
Yeah, do well, yeah, you do it. You do it.
Right.
I'm not doing it.
I do it. New guy gets all the.
Yeah, I'm not calling him.
All right, hold on. Here we go.
I like getting stuff, dude. If he's on a date.
Yeah. You're like, oh, that was Craig's idea.
Yeah, I'll be like,
Bill, what's going on, brother? Man, listen, this sounds crazy, but Isaac and I are in the middle of an episode. We're talking about SuperCross. We're talking about Speedline. We're talking nuts and bolts. And I'm like, do you want to call Bill? And he's like, yeah, but you got to call him. I'm like, all right, I'll call him. So you're not out on a date right now or anything, are you, man? We don't want to interrupt that.
Man, I wish I was. Unfortunately, we've been having a long week here at the shop, so I'm still stuck here behind the desk.
Isaac, I think we may
him.
have a winner here. What do you think?
Ask him if he'll come. Ask him if he'll come on Zoom.
Do you want to join us on our show to talk nuts and bolts of Supercross, Speedline, and all things BMX?
Yeah, man, you got it. Anything for you guys.
Okay,
dude.
Tell him he's going to come in live and tell
All
him
right.
to check his email.
Isaac's, you can't hear Isaac. He's talking to me. You're gonna come into the show live. We're gonna send you the link, and when you pop in, we'll get rolling with you, buddy. Thank you.
You got it, brother. I'll wait for that link to come through.
All right, you got it. We'll talk to you in a bit.
Thanks, brother.
Sent.
See you in a second.
All right.
All right, I sent.
Well, there we go. See, it worked out. Now, if he was on a date, I probably would have been fired. I'm just thinking.
Yeah, the newest and former Supercross rider.
Exactly.
Oh man, what's up, Bill? He's joining. All right, you're muted, dude. I got to get you to unmute. In the bottom left corner. There you go.
Got it. It's always that bottom left corner that gets me. What's up, guys?
What's up, Bill? Welcome, man.
It's Friday night. What are you guys doing a podcast?
Dude, this is what we do. We're old guys, so like it's a winter time. We end up podcasting on Friday nights. Normally we're out riding, but there's no ride outs tonight because it's winter time. So
dude, are you guys are gonna probably get our storm that's blowing through here soon. It is a cold one. It's a nasty one. It's blown out our internet. It's blown out our phone. This week has sucked. They're saying that it's going to be the worst storm that SoCal's ever had, which I think that the newscasters are liars, but I'll tell you what, freaking cold. We've had snow twice in the last 3 days, I think, so far.
Dude, that's crazy. Wow. Craig, did you see their snow up in Tracy? Like
I looked out my door and there was snow in places that there's never been snow, dude. You know how tempted I was to head up to just 10 miles up my road up to the hills that are less than 1,000 feet elevation. I'm like, we can have some fun. But Bill, Isaac and I were going over nuts and bolts. Like I said on the phone, we're talking about geometry. We're talking about engagement of hubs. We got so much going on. We had to call you because we don't want to get lost in the minutia of the information. And I'm like, Isaac's like, call Bill. And I said, okay, yeah, let's call him. He goes, no, you call him because I'm the new guy. And the new guy's got to do all the dirty work. And I said, let's go. And so here we are.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, I'm glad you did because I actually needed a little bit of a break. And I saw Isaac sneaking a snack there in a minute. It's like, man, my wife's going to be calling for dinner here anytime, but it's been a long day. And I'm glad you did. I needed a break from the drudgery of the email returns and the phone call returns and all that stuff. So I love talking BMX with you guys.
Dude, we knew you needed a break. So here we are. We know the wife and the dinner is on the way, so we're not going to keep you too long. So
we're good, man.
Why don't we get Bill into the mix on what we were talking about? You want to take it?
Yeah. So first of all, the glamorous life suits you. It's being the CEO life is amazing. Okay. So if you ever wonder what it's like to own Supercross, you're working at 8 o'clock on a Friday. So that's the stuff you don't see. So Bill, we were talking about the episode started with Craig and I talking about I left SE, he left Race Inc. I started talking about the SX250, the chromoly for people like us that are 80s nerds that rode bikes as kids. If you watch Rad in the theaters, this is your demo, right? So getting on a chromoly frame, because I've only rode aluminum since I came back to BMX in 2019. So riding chromoly was very this is very familiar. My brain went, okay, cool. So I was having a good time. Match that with the stiffness of the back end on an SX250 because of the nature of it. And then at the same time, you have a steeper head tube than other big BMX bikes that are out there in production right now. It's the steepest head tube out there, which matches and mirrors the bikes that we grew up with. So most head tube angles on a big bike is going to be about 71. That's about the steepest that you're going to find. So
That's
moving
pretty
down to-
shallow.
it's very shallow. So for us growing up that rode like a Trickstar with a 74, like those types of things, like I think even a Haro Master was like a 72 at the beginning of when in the early 80s, and then it got steeper and steeper. So
Yeah.
as that progressed, like the bikes that we all grew up and loved had steeper head tubes. So this feels more comfortable. I'm talking to Craig. I'm like, man, I called him the first time I rode it. I'm like, you're not going to believe this. I just rode a super long wheelie. He's like, no way. I'm like, yeah, dude, you're not going to believe this. So then we talked about, like, he started riding his, he was talking about his experience. I'm trying to explain the NVRS7 that I started riding 2 weeks ago. And I'm trying to explain to Craig, my friend Gregory, it's made out of. So I'm not good with metallurgy or that stuff, right? I can look at a bike and go, that looks super dope. That looks expensive. That looks fun. I understand some of it, but there's so much that we learn listening to you talk about these things. And you were telling me about the way it was formed and why it's better to do it the way that SuperCross does it than with like hydro or with traditional things that could leave, tolerances. And so I want my friends that like, I want Craig to understand, but I also want friends of the show that are watching to understand why these tubes turn and form and shape the way that they do. Can you tell us a little bit more about the technology there behind that? And then also,
I'd actually be glad to. And I think it'll help Craig when he gets the little box that's going to be showing up on his doorstep here in a couple of days, to where when he opens it up and has that big surprised look on his face, why he
like
goes,
that,
why? Why is this tube shaped like a pear, and why is this shaped like a bat wing, and why is this shaped like this? And
I'm going to gather my family around the fireplace and say, okay, sit down. Dad's going to teach you guys.
Gather around. Dad's got a story for you.
Classes in session. Go ahead, Bill.
No. So, I mean, the way that we got into doing the taper wall and custom shaped tubing that we've been doing is we started working with Easton back in 2005, right when the Olympics had been introduced. And Easton at that point was in Van Nuys, and we had been in Santa Clarita at the time, so not too far away from each other. And one of our riders, Samantha Cools, was already earmarked from Canada to be the girl to go to the Olympics. And we wanted to make sure that we were building the most top-notch Olympic caliber bike. And we started looking at carbon fiber and all kinds of different things back then. And we had decided that aluminum was the way to go. And Chuck Textera over there was really cool with us. And he took our CAD drawings that we had of our BMX frames, and we started running it through some FEA and just having a little bit of fun and learning the way that all the stress forces are put onto a bike. And I really learned a lot from those guys as far as the way that tubing is manufactured. So there's certain ways that aluminum is done. I mean, obviously it's a drawn tube, and you've got it to where it's a seamless tube. It's, where a lot of steel is a rolled tube, where it's starts off a sheet, they roll it, they seam weld it, they grind it and all that. Aluminum's not done that way. Aluminum's always drawn. But when you want to start doing a butted tube, some of the people back then were doing hydroforming, and hydroforming is basically you put the tube inside of a mold, cap off both ends, shoot in water pressure, and let that tube expand out to the die, which is actually a great way to make a pretty tube, but it's horrible as far as the wall tolerances on how you want to build a structural piece. And I really got to thank those guys over at Easton for giving me a crash course over a 4-year period on how aluminum tubes should be built and why they're built a certain way. And it's really cool the way that our tubes are drawn out on a swaging, they're crimp dyed. And the way that we do this is that we have a 2.35 millimeter wall up at the head tube, It tapers down into a thinnest section in the middle, goes back to a 1.9 millimeter at the bottom bracket shell. And by doing that, you've got your head tube area supported, you've got your bottom bracket area supported. And not only are we doing custom wall thicknesses, by doing the crimp dies, we're doing the custom shaping. So that way we're getting maximum weld area at all the different areas. And you're going to remember back in the day to where, you know, Fab Weld back in Florida was trying to do a lot of the oval or bi-oval shaped tubing. And it was pretty cool watching the way that the Essers used to do it, where they just take a chromoly tube and bang it onto the table. And okay, well, now the ground tube's flat, you know, let's cut it, miter it, and go. And they were learning the basic principles of how things were going to get the maximum weld area. And the way that these tubes are done, it really amplifies everything that you've ever wanted in tube technology. And
I'm going to bring up a picture so you can see it. I'm going to bring a picture up real quick so we can kind of look at it.
Okay, cool.
All right. So this is the NVRS7, right?
Yeah.
So we're looking at this. The down tube is what you're talking about. I don't want, if I move my mouse over it, it's going to bring that picture up.
Yeah. Well, you've got your mouse right up at the head tube juncture right there. So, and at that head tube juncture, as you can see, I mean, just as the glimpsing, but that head tube area, if you look at that tube, it's really pear shaped. So it tapers into a smaller pear top as it goes into the top tube and goes into a wider bottom area at the bottom of the head tube. So by doing that, you're not just a triangle tube, but it's a pear-shaped tube. So you've got your rounded shaped corners. You've got the largest weld area that we can possibly put up there. And by doing the swaging dies the way that we do, it's a really good wall thickness. And then as that tube tapers down, not only is it changing the wall thickness as it goes from the head tube, but it's changing shape as it goes down to the bottom bracket. And as it goes down to the bottom bracket area, it doesn't really look like a bat wing, but I always have referred to it as the bat wing because it has a little bit more of a pointed shape at the top. It goes out wide and then has a big round bottom on it. So I don't know what else to call it. I just call it a bat wing. I mean, I don't know.
So on the, you were talking about the wall thickness from the head tube down to the bottom bracket, Bill. So it sounded like you said that their wall thickness does change depending on which section of the tube we're looking at. Is that just because
so if Isaac's mouse moves, so where you start up there at the head tube and right about wall thickness changes. So right up there, it's 2.35 millimeter on the wall thickness. So it's got its own built-in gusset on the inside of the tubing, basically. And then as it goes down the wall, the tubing tapers. And here, when it hits that second S, you're down to a 0.9 millimeter. And then as it picks up again about the E, it starts to taper back out to a 1.9 millimeter. So by doing that, you've got a couple of things that are built into that frame. So you've got the extra strength that you need up at the head tube juncture to support your fork and to support the head tube area. You've got the extra strength down at the bottom bracket area to support your cranking to be able to give you quick, fast, responsive starts. But then you've also shaved all the weight out of the middle where you don't need it. Now, with that, we've also built in some safety features of like little crumple zones and different things, just like you'd engineer in like the hood of a car. So that way, if you do get into a high speed impact, if there's anything, none of the welds will ever break apart. The frame would actually bend rather than break. So there's never any loose tubes and sharp edges or broken welds that could ever cause any damage. So
that's incredible. Really I didn't know that a bike could have crumple zones, and that's pretty cool. That's incredible. And, you know, I was thinking about, you were talking about the thickness of the wall because of not only structural integrity where it's needed up near the head tube down as it gets towards close, you know, as it goes down towards the bottom bracket, it thins out, but then it thickens up again just for that structural integrity. Is there anything behind that as well with these race bikes that helps with the frames flex or to reduce flex during starts or when you have a higher torque situation?
Oh, of course. And that's part of where, I mean, the frame that Isaac had up there was one of our expert frames. So the pro frames, and even on that expert frame, you can't really see it from that side view of the picture, but there's a little lug behind the bottom bracket that actually braces the rear stays. And if you look at that picture, you can see the rear stays actually taper out as well. So they're a flat, round oval as it comes out of the bottom bracket shell and then tapers to an actual round as it meets up to the dropout. And the reason that we've done stuff like this is to allow the frame to side to side flex, so it's not too hard on your knees, but also gives you absolute minimal forward to aft flex. So like here on this frame, which is one of our double XLs, if you look at the way that the seat mast is swaged out, and if you look at that bottom bracket box in section on the back end, that whole rear end section is designed to do nothing but just be pure power transfer. And just like that head tube, with it being that tapered head tube, that's designed to support a tapered 1 1/8 to 1.5 fork. So you have a larger bearing. So it's a smoother spinning head tube. It's a smoother, more controlled headset. And you can actually have a lighter fork that goes into that. You can actually use a carbon steer tube. So now you've got a lighter fork, you've got a stronger fork, you've got a smoother bearing, you've got more stability in the gate. So when you're up in the gate and you're getting ready to ride, the front end doesn't have any flex to that. But if you notice the way that everything's tapering with the wall thicknesses and the shaping, there's a lot of everything that's been engineered so that it lunges forward. Everything moves forward at you as quickly as you can, to where it's just boom, 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 boom. Let's launch. Let's be responsive, but without being too harsh on the side to side. Because when you have that harshness on the side to side, that's when you start to lose out on your third and fourth pedal stroke, to where your first pedal stroke's going to be great. And then if the frame's too stiff, the frame won't load up properly to let your second, your third pedal stroke get around properly. So there's a lot of engineering that needs to go in for that, just that perfect amount of balance, so that the frame will allow you to be like an airplane wing is the best way I've always tried to explain it. Is that, you know, if an airplane wing was always just completely stiff and solid, every single 747, every 737 would just drop out of the sky, and, you know, it'd be Armageddon all over, you know, we'd all be running for our lives. But if you watch, when you're sitting at the window seat, you know, over the wing, you know, that wing's just going ever so slightly. It's just got that little bit of compliance. And that's what you want on your frame. You want just that little bit of compliance, and it's going to be better on your knees, better on your ankles, better on your back. It's going to give you an improved ride quality, and it's going to help you with those second, third, fourth, fifth pedals, and allow you to really wind up and really move that bike forward together. And
yeah, because when you think about it too, you've got, you not only have the gate start, the high, you know, you're going from 0 to fast, right? And all the
0 to 30 like that. But then, you know, there's those forces, and then it just appears from my layman eyes, from the grandstands, you've got the forces of, you know, the straightaways, the turns, you know, the rollers, everything that comes with it that you have to factor in too. I mean, it's like, it has to be such a balanced bike. And one of the things that I've really enjoyed is going to the SuperCross YouTube channel and watching your tech tips on technology, not just why, you know, hey, buy my most expensive. No, it's sometimes you're like, hey man, if you're doing this aluminum hub is going to work great for you. But if you're getting into this at this level, here's this carbon fiber hub, and here's what the technology does. Here's why it's designed this way, and here's what it's going to mean to you on the track. Like those things mean a lot to folks, especially those like me that don't have that pedigree of being a race
qualified person, you know. I'm like learning. So you guys go over to SuperCross's YouTube, subscribe and like and do all that stuff, but listen and watch and take notes, because it's real information, real technology, and real tech tips to get you out there and have a bike in the technology not just be the best of everything, but have it be the best for you to work for what you want it for.
Yeah, I want to add something onto that too, Craig, because here's the deal, you guys. Craig and I, of course, we want you to ride a Supercross. For the only reason that you're going to remember what this bike feels like. It is a, you know, I always say bikes are time machines. This feels like a very responsive 80s bike. Now, the RS7, I've got some carbon forks that Bill was talking about with the tapered steer tube. Dude, the carbon technology is crazy to me because it is so light. And I'll be honest, I didn't trust it because I followed carbon when it first came into BMX, and it was like, it didn't go well. It didn't go well.
No, it didn't.
It
did. Watch one of our videos on our YouTube channel, wherever the YouTube channel is, but it was horrible. I mean, our first try with carbon, it was a nightmare.
Everybody's carbon entry into BMX was just shady. It didn't work right. So then I'm talking to Bill about carbon, and he's talking about, you know, Torre carbon and stuff like that. Tell me more about, like, so I love the idea of like the racing. I love that because the technology is there and I understand that. A majority of the folks that are watching this right now are not racers. They're like me. They're like Craig. We want to ride BMX bikes because we loved BMX as kids. This is our Harley Davidson, right? This is our moment. This is our Harley. This is our Corvette, right? Instead of Corvettes, we buy BMX bikes. So when it comes to these bikes, and when it comes to like carbon fiber, for us, we just like that. And the primarily we're looking at, like, we ride around in big groups, but pedaling long distances. So taking that lightweight, like what I've noticed after getting off of a like 35-pound bike that I was riding before and riding my SX 250, and then even now going lighter to the RS7 with the carbon stuff, bro, I can ride so far without gassing, without getting, burned out, without any of that stuff. So that to me is really important. And then the power transfer doing wheelies, right? So I feel like I can control my wheelies so much easier on both of these bikes. And I don't know if it's weight. I don't know if it's the engineer that you're talking about where you have tolerances that make it so I'm not, like, my old 50-year-old legs can crank down and save a wheelie a lot easier on your bikes than on other bikes. And I've done it so far on two. And we were talking beforehand because I was like, Craig, you'll probably remember this, Bill, when I called you. I'm like, bro, is this exact same geometry? Because I'm sitting here looking at it like this has to be a typo. And you're like, no, it's the same. So two bikes, you guys, it is a race bike. The SX 250s, those ones are sold out. Find those if you can. The RS7 is going to give you that same exact feel that Craig and I are talking about. Craig's about to get one. He just found out tonight. Surprise.
Thank you. Yeah, I did. Did I say thank you? Thank you.
And so
you're very welcome.
They're fun to ride. And so the things that, can you tell me about the technology that is going to help someone like, your 50-year-old rider? Because you guys, I'm going to let you in on something. For 2023, I did not renew my gym membership. I instead canceled Planet Fitness. And instead I signed up at USA BMX for $80 at Chandler BMX. That gives me a whole year of access to USA BMX. Here's the life hack. I don't plan on racing, right? I signed up on 50 novice, but what I can do is every week they have track night and practice night. And for $10, I can go out there and ride around the track for 3 hours and be goofy and have a lot more fun than I would at Planet Fitness on a elliptical. So,
and get more cardio and gas yourself out way more than you would at Planet Fitness.
Right. And so that's so for me, I'm using this bike as a my fun machine. This is my fun time. This is my dad time. This is my notifications aren't going off. There's no emails I have to answer. There's no Slack. There's nothing. It's just me and Chandler BMX, and that's cool. So for guys like us that are just going to ride these bikes casually, do wheelies and do dirt jumps and tabletops and stuff like that, can you tell us about the technology that we would see? I'm going to share this again. This isn't the 26, because I'm just looking on their site for big pictures, not sizes of these bikes. But
no
I can tell you this was, you said this is a double XL. This looks,
that was a double XL.
This looks exactly like my bike, you guys, with the big lug in the back that stiffens everything.
Oh yeah. The
huge dropouts. So as far as the technology that we're looking at right here on this RS7, tell me about the technology that I'm seeing and how this will translate to better wheelies, better, tabletops for those of us that go out and jump at our local, pump tracks.
Sure. So, I mean, the best thing that you're going to notice is that it is going to be a lighter weight. So the less weight that you're having to carry when you're riding, the longer you're going to be able to ride and the more enjoyable it's going to be. So that's going to be a huge thing. Now, part of the reason that we use the 7005 series material on these rather than a 6061 is that the 7005 material allows for a lot more flex while still maintaining all of its strength. So that's where we're allowing the comfort zone to be built into it so that you've got that little bit of compliance so that not only is it lighter weight, it's not as harsh of a ride. So that's part of where that second, third, fourth pedal that I was talking about, that not only makes up for you on your performance aspect, but makes up for your comfort. And it also has a higher strength and a better yield designed into it as far as the material technology, so that when you are out at the trails, when you are doing the wheelies, you've got it to where hey, it's a stronger bike, it's a better riding bike, and it's going to feel better. Yep. Everything that we do, I mean, I actually got an email from a guy today, and I mean, it was kind of you guys to mention our YouTube channel, because I hate doing those videos. I think you guys spoke about,
but you're so good at
before. It. Oh my God, I hate those things. But the one thing that I do like to try and tell everybody and remind everybody is that BMX is fun. And everything that we're doing, even though we're trying to build the best BMX race bikes that are possibly ever going to be made, I mean, that's my goal just because I'm a bike geek and I'm weird that way. I love anything that I'm going to do, whether it's going to be a guitar, whether it's a car, whether it's a bike, whether I'm working on whatever I'm working on, I want it to be the best. Because if it's not going to be the best, why should we even mess with it, right? I mean, there's no sense in half-assing anything. You've got to do it 100% the best. And unfortunately, I'm a bike geek, and it drives my wife nuts because I will sit there. I'll come home tonight. I'll get done here at 8:30, 9 o'clock tonight by the time we're done talking. And I'll go home and my tacos will be cold on the counter. And she'll be like, dinner's cold on the counter. And I'll sit with her for a little while and she'll go to bed and watch one of her shows or whatever. And I'll get onto YouTube and I'll watch bike videos. I'll go watch the recap of the Orlando race that happened today. And she'll be like, why are you doing this? You do this all week long. Why are you watching this now? Well, I'm a bike geek. And I'll break out my iPad and I'll be sketching and I'll be working on what I'm working on to where you guys haven't seen it yet, but there's some new stuff that's going to be coming out in September and October and November that we're working on. And I've got stuff that we're already working on for 2025 and stuff for 2026. And it's like, I don't even know if I'm going to be alive then, but I'm working on the projects to make sure that they're coming out. And I want to make sure it's going to be the best. Right. And I'm working with some of the material factories to make sure that we're getting the best materials and all this. And I don't race anymore. I like to ride. I enjoy to ride. nothing on the weekend makes me happier than to be able to grab my bike and just cruise. And I've got a small little loop that I do after the heart surgeries. You know, I'm working my way back up. It took a while to do a half mile. Then it took a while to do a mile and a half. Now I'm back up to doing about a 5 mile loop, and I'm feeling good with my 5 mile loop. And I've got my little areas where the trees popped up the sidewalks again, and where there's the little drops. And, okay, cool. I'm having fun with it, right? And nothing makes me enjoy that more. And I want to make sure I'm riding the best. And to me, having whatever it is, the smoothest bearings, the stiffest cranks, the best power transfer. I mean, whatever it is, I want it to be the best, period. And if that means that that's what I'm giving to our race team, if that means that's what I'm giving to the freestyle riders or the dirt jump riders or the mountain bike guys, or, you know, when Eddie Fiola was here the other day and we had a little sit down. Before we had the sit down, I mean, Eddie and I are always crazy because, I mean, you guys have interviewed Eddie. You know Eddie really well. I mean, Eddie and I have been friends for 4 decades. So that's where when I did your interview the other time, the last time, and I was teasing you guys, I'm like, oh, why'd you mention Eddie? Well, it was a joke. I mean, I was just razzing him because, you know, we've been friends for that long. Yeah. But some of the ideas that he comes up with, oh my God, you know, he's like, Bill, we can do a hydraulic brake like this, and we can do this, and we can do that, because he's a bike geek too. And that's where it's like, okay, we're bike geeks. We found our kindred spirits, you know, we're bike geeks. This is why we've been able to be friends for 40 years.
Right.
You know, because, you know, I can text him at 2 a.m. and go, dude, this is what we're going to do. And the scary part is that his wife, Mindy, will be like, why is Bill texting you at 2 a.m? Oh, we figured out how to do this. This is why we're going to do it, you know? And it may just be something that I do for him or that we do for somebody else, but you know, it's fun because this is why we try and make it be better. Yeah, I'm sorry. I probably didn't answer your question.
No, dude, you did. It's a lighter bike, and definitely explain that. Now, I'm gonna, like, Craig and I are gonna come down. We'll talk about, you know, carbon. We'll talk about like carbon hoops and how that would help big BMX bikes, carbon cranks. I can tell you the forks and the bar combo is phenomenal. I can tell you that right now.
Wait till I get you some of the cranks. I've got the production run on the cranks has been a little bit slower than we wanted to. We had that lawsuit that we had to clear up as far as the patent infringement, which, you know, we didn't realize, but someone else figured out that we infringed upon their patent. So that was a long deal, but we got over that. Now we've finally got them back in production and we're rolling again. And it's taking a while because we want to make sure everything's perfect and everything's hand laid up and hand done. But wait till you get on them.
It's amazing. I can't wait.
It was cool.
Yeah.
Rob at Calabasas Cycles called the other day and he was like, Bill, this is the best engineered carbon crank I've ever had. And he does a lot with Shimano and SRAM and all these other companies. And I was like, oh, dude, thank you. That makes me feel really good.
Tell him to sell me that 6-bar 29 that he has.
Oh, he will.
Yeah.
He'll work you a deal.
I called. Oh, anyway, side note.
One thing, you know, Isaac, it's pretty exciting, man. It's like we're talking technology, and as it relates to racing, and here you and I are like, okay, big bike. I think what we don't see is a lot of that technology yet. Not that it isn't there, but just people who either one know about it and are like, I know about it, but I don't know how I can use it on the big bike side, or two, they're just not aware of it because it isn't really part of the culture yet. The people who are scared of it, or at least not scared in the sense of frightened, but they're like, if I buy a $400 fork and I have to cut that steer tube, what do I use to cut it? Is there a blade that I can cut a carbon thing with? And if I do, and
there is,
I don't want to mess it up.
Yeah.
But here we're talking about this technology. In my head, I'm thinking like, here's how we incorporate it into big bikes. You've got that RS7. I've got one on the way now. Thank you. I've just found that out. But one of the things that I want to do for our viewer base and the people that watch us ride bikes is to go, it's okay. You can use this technology in big bikes. And we're going to show you how it's done, and we're going to tell you about how it rides to get people, to embrace this and to know that you guys can use this stuff too. And it's available. You know what I mean? Like, it's cool to advance with technology as well as have the retro stuff, but because that's tried and true, and people are.
Here's the thing, dude. You're worth it, Craig. You're worth it. That's, you know what I mean? Like, you've earned that right to, like, you earned carbon forks, bro. Like, here's the thing. Like, what it does, it gives you that ability to smile a little bit longer because you get to ride a little bit longer on your bike. And dude, that's all we're really after. Have more fun than you had the day before. And if I can ride an extra 2 miles because I've got a lighter bike, bro, I'm all in on that. I'm all in.
You know how important that is to my ears to hear that I'm going to be one, having more fun, right? You got me sold right there. But two, comfortability.
It's comfort.
And being able to go out there and do more riding equals more fun. Yeah. Like, is that not a winning formula?
It's the whole point. So, Bill, last question about these RS7s. And thanks for picking up our phone call randomly on a Friday.
Oh, dude, no worries. Like I said, you gave me a much needed break, so I really appreciate it. You guys can call anytime.
But tacos.
Yeah, but wait till you hear
veggie tacos. I'm vegetarian diet for the heart. So veggie tacos.
Veggie tacos.
Here's my question, dude. Our community loves limited stuff, right? So the SX 250s, there was 50 frames that were made for the 33-year radiversary. Those are sold out.
Yeah.
How many of the RS7s in that 26-inch size, if you're willing to comment, how many of those did you make? So people could just be like, oh, I have one of X number. What is that number?
We built 50 of them.
50, so it's one of 50.
Yeah, one of 50. And here's the thing, Isaac, and it's funny. We built 26-inch bikes back in 2002 when I built that first 26-inch quad, and I built some 26-inch Supercross Devos because I liked them. I thought they were fun and they were rad.
Yep.
And this 26-inch RS7 that you guys have now, the whole reason that we built this was for Turnell Henry. Turnell has been, he gets mad at me every time I say this because it makes him feel old, but we've been brothers for 44 years. He started teaching me clinics when I was 10 at Harbor. And, he literally is a brother of mine. And he told me that, if he was going to race cruiser, it was going to be on a 26, and he knew that I would never build him a 26. So he was trying to use that to taunt me to keep him from racing cruiser. So we went ahead.
Hold my beer.
Yeah, exactly.
Watch
exactly.
This, Turnell.
Yeah, watch this, Turnell. So his favorite color is red. So we went ahead and built some, and I did one up for him in a custom red anodize. His was the only one that we did a red anodize on, and she said, here you go. And it was funny, just like you had said, Isaac, he didn't trust carbon, didn't want to run carbon. He's been running 26-inch carbon forks because I did those specifically to match up with those frames. And everybody was like, what are you doing? Why are you spending so much money for a mold for this? And our 26-inch carbon forks are more expensive than our 20s and our 24s, but that mold cost has to come from somewhere. And it is a very limited production. I mean, so far on those 26-inch carbon forks, we've only built 100 of them. It's not like there's a lot of them. And that $40,000 mold cost, it's got to be repaid somewhere. I'm planning on making more of those 26-inch carbon forks, but
please do.
So
please
far
do.
It's 100.
Yeah, no, please do, because I have more than 100 friends. So
yeah. And we built 50 of those frames, and we did. I'd have to go back and check the production notes, but I think it was like 20 disc brake, 30 V brake, something like that. And they've been fun. I mean, and when Turnell got on it, I mean, I don't think he lost a lap on it for a year. His first race on it was the Grands, and he just smoked everybody on it. And he was just like, yes, this is awesome. And he still has everybody thinking that he's riding a 24. He still has everybody coming up going, dude, that's a pretty big 24. And he's like, no, this is a 26. They're like, really? Okay.
Yeah.
But,
Big bike for the win.
Yeah.
oh,
So
man.
I will tell you guys, like the carbon stuff, making your bike lighter, making it stiffer and more responsive. It is such a joy to ride and so fun to like. This bike is just fun to look at because everywhere you look at it, it feels like you're riding down. For me, it's in a parking lot. I spend a lot of my time on a BMX bike in a parking lot because I always have, and I love riding bikes in parking lots, doing flatland and BMX and practicing my wheelies. So I love riding in empty parking lots. And there's something about looking down at your bike and it looks like a stealth jet. It looks like a fighter.
What'd you say earlier? It was like Tron, right?
Dude, it's
something,
like it's every tube has an angle to it. But when you know every angle, there's a purpose. It's not decorative, you guys. That's the funniest part. You're going to be like, they designed this to look like Knight Rider or the Batmobile. And you're like,
No.
yeah, that they did. And when you look at it, you're like,
it's all function before form.
yeah, it's amazing, you guys. So when you go to the SuperCross site, go to the store, go to Race Bikes 24 plus. That's going to take you to the page that lands the RS7. There are two options. The regular, just RS7 Fastback. That's the disc brake version. The regular version is the V brake version. I have the V brake. I love the V brake. I paired it with Speedline, these Speedline brakes, which are very smooth and very easy to adjust. We'll talk about Speedline. We'll come down to the factory. We'll walk around.
Yeah, you guys are going to be here in a couple of weeks, so I can't wait for that.
Yes, we're going to walk around the Speedline warehouse, the SuperCross warehouse, with cameras, with Bill, with Craig and I, and we are going to walk around and look at all the parts. We'll discuss why these are engineered the way they are. We'll talk about worm drives. I'm a big fan of the worm drive Killer Buzz hub set. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about the carbon hubs. The carbon cranks, bars, forks, and hoops, because they have 26-inch carbon hoops for your bikes. Now, if someone were to go to speedlineparts.com, buy the 26-inch hoops, can they use disc brake and V brake with your carbon hoops?
We have both options. So currently the ones I think that are up on the site right now are the disc brake versions only. But just because we've sold out of the V brake ones, the 26-inch rims, typically when we've been bringing those in, we've been doing it for our Shine Dirt Jumper, which is something else that I've got to get you guys on. Eddie Fiola, when he was here the other day, just picked up a new dirt jumper, and he grabbed one of the new Shines, and you guys are going to love them. And that's what we started doing the 26-inch hoops for. Yeah. And those are disc brake specific. So we've always done way more of the disc rims versus the V brake rims. Yeah. And they're awesome.
I was watching your actually, Craig reminded me that I was watching it too. You had an entire episode on your Tech Tip Tuesdays. It's hard for me to say too, bro, and I do this all the time. But I love the concept, because you talked about rotor size, right? The actual like size on a rotor. Why that matters is I've noticed that in big bikes, disc brakes are taking over. Like the more it started in like 2020 is when I started seeing it, and now you just see more and more going towards that. Are you seeing the same in this? Do you see that being the future for Supercross as well in the big bike world?
Unfortunately. And I hate to say unfortunately, but I do say unfortunately, I see disc brakes being the future for all bikes. And a lot of that is that the V-brake manufacturers are discontinuing manufacturing of the V-brakes. And the reason that BMX bikes and big BMX bikes have got to use V-brakes for so long has been that the mountain bike segments, the gravel segments, the commuter segments, as long as they were using V-brakes, hey, we got the trickle down technology.
Yep.
And now that those manufacturers are stopping making them for mountain bikes and stopping making them for the commuter bikes, they're not going to set up to manufacture for BMX and for big BMX. There's just not enough of us out there to do it. And I hate to say it, I truly do. I personally think that there's more than enough BMXers and more than enough big BMXers that these manufacturers, you know, who are setting up to do that should be able to take care of us, but they're not. And they're just going wherever the money is. And to me, it's unfortunate. And I saw that coming about 4, maybe 5 years ago, to where it's like, oh crap, this is going to what's going to happen. And here's where we're going to need to start to change over. And here's what we need to do. And that's part of where we did that one video where I was really trying to explain to where it's like, hey, everybody, when they first got onto disc brakes, they were getting the big rotors and they're getting the 6-piston calipers, 4-piston calipers, and just they wanted to make sure it would lock up at any speed. And, you know, they're high siding and they're throwing themselves over the bars. And I've watched a lot of pro races and pro semis get lost by people going through the turn, grabbing that brake, they high side, they crash, it turns into a bad thing. So there's a lot of functionality that needs to be learned about disc brakes. And I think that that's going to happen in the big BMX crowd, just as it has in the regular BMX crowd.
Yeah.
And I hate to cause a differentiation between big BMX and BMX, because honestly, we're BMXers. It's the same. There shouldn't be any kind of difference.
We have to though. Yeah.
Right.
It's funny. We were just talking about it earlier. Like we call there's the bike life scene, which is going to be the more like, these are the younger kids doing the standing on the seat, doing the knee knockers, cans, that kind of stuff. That's more bike life. For this discussion, we were like, okay, now we consider ourselves big BMX bikes. So big BMX is like, that's kind of the way that we differentiate for this.
Yeah. And back in the day, I mean, even in sanctioned BMX racing, you were riding 20-inch bikes or you were riding cruiser class. Cruiser class was just the big BMX of, you know, that era. And it still is, you know, there's cruiser class still, but yeah, we talk about big bikes. We're talking about what, you know, 26 and above for us.
Yeah. So Bill, thank you so much, man, for hanging out with us. Craig, thank you for hanging out as well. You know, I'm gonna go downstairs and get some dinner. Bill, you can go home and get some cold tacos. Craig, you're on your own. You're on your own, brother.
I'm on my own. Again.
You and me both. Yeah.
Craig, bowl of cereal?
What's that?
Are we gonna have a bowl of cereal tonight or what?
No cereal. Too much sugar, man. I'm gonna go have some vegetarian tacos.
Nice. See?
Yeah.
The veggie tacos are good, man.
Dude, I would be eating fish. I would be eating fish tacos every night, dude. So Craig's wife is a pro angler. So I'd be eating fish all day long, man. Craig, you have
the thing is we don't keep them. We throw them back.
You have to throw them back. That's right. Okay, never mind.
Catch and release.
I would be horrible.
I catch sales at Safeway. That's what I do.
I would take some home. I would be that guy. I'd be that guy in the Delta. Anyway, y'all, thank you so much, Bill. Thanks a lot for hanging out with us.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate the call.
Yep. Hold on one sec. All right, y'all. We're gonna leave you with this. Go have some fun on your bikes. Go over to SuperCrossBMX.com. Take a look at the technology there. See if it tickles your fancy. If you have questions about it, you can reach out to me. You can reach out to Craig, or you can reach out to SuperCrossBMX on Instagram, and Bill will answer your questions. If you call, odds are you're going to talk to Bill. If you email, odds are you can email Bill. So if you have questions about this stuff, Bill is a bike nerd, just like I am, just like Craig is. He's one of us, y'all. So send him a message. Be like, hey, man, I'm interested in this. Tell me more about X, Y, or Z. He will help you out. He's a great guy to chat with. And welcome to the new age of big BMX, because with this technology, we're going to see easier riding for old folks like me in my 50s and all the dads that are out there. There's no reason you should be pedaling around on your, let's get rid of the mid school of big BMX and let's move into this lighter, faster, more responsive era, because you're worth it. Yeah, you're worth it. Craig, take us out, brother.
You got it, man. Thanks, everyone. And big shout out to Bill Ryan, founder, CEO of SuperCross BMX Speedline Parts. We want to thank you guys for showing up on the YouTube channel here. If there was a live chat and you've been hanging out and conversing back and forth, don't think that it has to end there. Like Isaac said, you can DM us on either platform, Instagram, Facebook, or comment right here and ask us what you want to ask us. It's really that easy. Send an email, Instagram to SuperCross BMX. You will get an answer at some point from someone, probably like Isaac said, Bill. If you're listening out on the audio podcast, thank you guys, man. Just as well, follow, like, and subscribe on all platforms. Send us messages and questions and whatever you want to talk about. If you bought a SuperCross BMX recently or have one in your quiver, we want to know about it. Let's see those pictures. Send us photos. We'd love to repost your SuperCross BMX builds.
Tag me.
Let's all have fun together, man. This is fun times, and with all this technology and everything, let's just keep having fun. To all of our sponsors for the show, you guys know who you are, and we thank you for your continued support here at Big Bike BMX. For Big Bike BMX, I'm 80s BMX Craig. That's Bill Ryan. That's Isaac Irvine. You guys have fun. I'm out.